Herbalicious. What's going on today, Maureen? Today I want to talk about harvesting and preserving herbs. For me, herbs were always just a flavoring, like you'd add oregano to your spaghetti sauce. And I don't really remember as a child that we used basil, but as an adult, we use a lot of basil for things, especially in the summertime. But I just thought they were flavorings. And then as my daughter has become an herbalist, I'm seeing and realizing all of the medicinal aspects to these herbs. So when you're adding them to your food, you're actually adding in those healing constituents into your body, which is really good. And when you have an idea of knowing what things are doing, you can be a little bit more generous with it, or just be adding it into your diet a little bit more often. So I'm a jazz and blues singer, and I knew nothing about gardening 4 years ago. And so I've been taking on these little challenges in learning how to grow food and learning the benefits of things like herbs on adding them to your diet. So coupled with that, I'm wanting to help others like yourself, like maybe you were a jazz and blues singer, you have no idea about gardening. And so I've just taken this aspect on to become more self-sufficient and to grow food that's going to offset your monthly budget. Because have you seen the price of vegetables? It's getting harder and harder to eat good food. And so if you can grow your own food yourself, that's just going to make a world of difference for your budget and for your health. This journey has been a very exciting one for me. And if I can help you do the same thing, that makes it so much better. So I'm going to go over 10 herbs that I grow. There's actually other herbs that I do grow, but I wanted to focus on these 10 specific. Actually, there's 11 because there's a new herb I'm growing, and that's going to be kind of exciting to see just what comes of this. It's not quite ready for harvest, but we'll talk about it when we get there. Plus, Marissa's going to join me in making a wonderful summertime dip, and it's so packed with medicinal properties, 2 herbs along with a few other little things. So you'll have to join me for that too. I brought out a great big giant cookie sheet, my clippers, and then I just have these long pieces of paper that I fold in half because I just want to cut all the herbs and then go in and wash them up. We're going to start with sage, and I'm pretty ruthless with my sage when it comes to pruning. I'll start out with let me just, clip off one at a time. I just end up coming through and just hacking it big. You always want to leave some of the bottom leaves on the bottom so we're not going down too far. The uses and medicinal properties, you're going to use it for culinary flavoring in dishes like stuffings, sausages, and sauces. The medicinal are antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial properties. It also aids in your digestions, improves your memory, and soothes sore throats. The best drying method is air drying. You can bundle the stems and hang them upside down in a warm, well-ventilated area from direct sunlight, or you can lay them on an air dryer. You can do dehydration and on a low temperature for a couple of hours, or freeze them on a tray and then transfer to a Ziploc bag. This is some lemon balm, so we'll put it with the lemon balm. So we've got some beautiful sage. Smells wonderful. Next is our lemon balm, and we have that piece that was growing in our sage. And lemon balm, it grows just about everywhere. I find it in many, many of my pots. So again, not going right to the bottom, so we do have some bottom leaves, because where they will, don't want our oregano, where you're going to cut it, it's going to make a couple more branches with it. The culinary uses is you can put it into teas. It makes a refreshing tea, which you could do it hot, or in the summertime now you could be doing it cold, which would be delicious. I think that's good enough for you. Whoop. This is a huge lemon balm that showed up in my garden last year, and so I picked it and moved it here, and it's just done wonderful. Lemon balm also will help to deter pests, which is one of the reasons why I brought it out here. This one, I don't know how much I'll cut it back. It is intertwined here with my grapes, but I just wanted to get some extra because the one in the pot wasn't super big. You can also put it in salads and desserts, so you're going to get that little lemony flavor. The medicinal aspects are it's got calming effects, aids in digestion, antiviral properties, and can help with anxiety and sleep disorders. Best way is to air dry it. Spread the leaves on a screen, or you can tie them in small bundles and hang. Dehydrator, low temp for 1 to 2 hours, or you can actually freeze it. So you could chop it and freeze it in ice cube trays with water or oil. The lemony smell is just so fresh, so wonderful. You know, I would even just put it into a bouquet. The scent is so pretty. When you're doing your herbs, do you air dry, do you dehydrate, or do you freeze? And freezing is actually quite new to me. I've always frozen my dill, but I didn't realize that some other herbs are actually better when you freeze them because they stay nice and fresh when you go to use them. The best time of day to harvest your herbs is first thing in the morning, just after the dew has dried off. It's way less stress on the plants, and also first thing in the morning, that's when you're going to get the optimal flavor in your herbs. The next one that I grow is oregano, and I have two different types of oregano. I've got this lighter one here and this other darker one. And the uses of oregano are essential in Mediterranean and Mexican cuisine. So this is something that I actually learned just a couple of years ago, that when you are making like a traditional like taco spice or anything like that, you use cumin, oregano, garlic, and you can make your own spices. I've never tasted oregano in it, but when you are putting it in, man, does it ever enhance the flavor. Who knew? So now you can make your own taco seasoning. The medicinal properties are antibacterial and anti-inflammatory, and it's rich in antioxidants. Oh, I love the smell of this. And it supports respiratory health. If you use your oregano, make your own tincture with it, which is really, really great. I am going to mix these two. I always have good intentions to go, let's not mix them, see what the difference is, but by the time I get around to doing that, it's like, nah, we're just sticking them all together. Now, I don't make tinctures. My daughter does as an herbalist, so she does do these kinds of things. I will be just drying the oregano for us to use in our cooking. The drying method, you can air dry and bundle the stems and hang in a dark, dry place. Again, you can use a dehydrator. And the freezing, the whole leaves or chop and freeze in an oil, not in the water, which I think that would be really wonderful, an excellent way to use it for Mediterranean, Italian, or Mexican cuisine. Your peppermints. Of course, you can use them as a tea and, you know, in desserts and as a flavoring in many different dishes. This one in particular is called a chocolate mint, and so it does have a little bit of a chocolatey flavor to it. So I think I might keep this one separate from my other mint. And with mints, your medicinal aspects is that it's going to, oops, that's an onion. It's going to help with digestive issues. It also helps with headaches. I think if you're going to drink a tea with it, again, I think if you make a tincture, it's going to be pretty wonderful. And it has antimicrobial properties. The best way, of course, is air drying in bundles or on a mesh. And you can dehydrate it. Seems like it's just a couple of hours. And you can also freeze the leaves in water or oil. If you froze it in water, it would make it great for the wintertime for making your peppermint teas. And just so you know, peppermint is best grown in pots so that it doesn't take over your yard. I've got those two separate. Next is our dill, and I just came and did a cutting, but I can see some of these are a little bit injured, so I might just take off a few more. So of course, your dill, you want it for your pickles. Oops, I just broke him off. Let's take him. Some of these dark ones. Like I said, you want it for your pickles, seafood dishes. Just love the smell of dill. These ones are awfully brown. We'll leave those. But we'll take you off. So you can use your dill for salads. I don't want to take off too much more because I want it to keep growing. Dill is a digestive aid and it reduces gas and bloating. And of course it has antibacterial properties. And the best way, this one I knew, the best way to preserve your dill is to wash it, dry it, and put it in a Ziploc bag and stick it in your freezer. It keeps it fresh and it's right ready to go with whatever dish you want to put it in. Next is our cilantro. And with this one, it's great in Mediterranean cuisine and Mexican cuisine, of course. And we'll be using this to put into our salsa. Again, I've already done some picking from this cilantro, but it is still trying to go to seed because of the extra heat. So we're going to be taking this cilantro and making an absolutely fabulous summertime dip. So stay tuned for that. The recipe also will be needing some parsley, so we're just going to take some of this parsley. We've got some curly parsley here. Parsley you do want to cut as low as you can into the stems. I wasn't doing that, so I did go back through to grab some of those stems because it does grow from the bottom up. It's not going to make more branches. Just a little tip to keep you informed. So the basil which is one of my favorites, especially in the summertime. It's great for making pestos and salads and Italian dishes. But my favorite is when you take a piece of basil along with a little piece of salami and some sort of cheese and you wrap it all up together and you eat that. It is absolutely yum, yum, yummy. Something to add to your charcuterie board for sure. You want to have 2 sets of leaves and then cut up above, because then it will branch out. You want to keep your basil alive and doing well throughout the entire summer. It is an anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, and the cool thing is that it also promotes cardiovascular health. Your drying, of course, is best just to put it on a screen or hang it in a warm, dry place. You can dehydrate it for a couple of hours. Freezing is probably one of the best methods for it. You can chop and freeze it in ice cube trays with water and oil, and then that way, again, it's just ready to go, where you can just take the cube and then drop it right into your sauces. Absolutely delicious. Now, holy basil is a different one. And again, you can use it in teas, soups, and stir fries. I do have other basils. I have a Thai basil as well in the yard and garden. It's pretty small, a little bit early to be pruning it. But this holy basil, you know, as I've been doing research and then also just talking with Merissa, this one is a must-have for your garden, for your health. The holy basil, which is also called tulsi, the medicinal properties are, it is an adaptogen, it reduces stress, it's anti-inflammatory, and it also is going to boost your immunity. They don't recommend freezing it. It's mostly just to have it air dried to make teas. It's best just to air dry it. But if you wanted, you could chop it and freeze it just in water. Next will be our thyme. And I have allowed this to just get way far beyond where it needed to be clipped and pruned. So we're gonna do a pretty heavy prune for this time here. Of course, it's great in your soups and stews and roasted meats. I do find that it does have a bit of a scent like oregano, but there is a difference. One of my favorite uses of thyme is to put it in hamburger soup. It is just so delicious. To me, it's the star of the soup. But you can see, like, this has just gotten way overdone. So we are going to be getting a lot of thyme. And I'm just hacking at it. Just it needs to move along. Oh, but the scent is just so incredible. Your thyme is antimicrobial, and this is another one that aids in digestion, and it also supports your respiratory health. Another favorite appetizer, I love to take some feta cheese and put some sprigs of thyme and some olives on it and then bake it in the oven, and it's a wonderful appetizer. Thyme is another one that you can just air dry or dehydrate, but it's also one that's really good for freezing. I think I actually should have brought a bowl out for this one. Here is my new to me herb. That's a little bonus one. It is anise. This anise is great for baking, liqueurs, and spice blends. It's going to aid in digestion. It reduces bloating. It needs to be in well-drained soil and full sun. You know, make sure it's watered moderately. And when it gets to the place of harvesting, I'm going to harvest the seeds when they turn gray-green and before they fall off the plant. They recommend, of course, air drying, and air drying it hanging upside down in a paper bag so it'll catch all the seeds. So I think that's pretty cool to be growing anise this year. There is other herbs that I grow, the chamomile and the catmint and yarrow. Those are things that are more for Merissa to work with. So I'm learning to grow them in the pots at this point to eventually, you know, be able to grow bigger amounts because of what she will need when she is making tinctures and teas. My little amounts in my little pots, that just won't cut it for her. Next will be lavender. And I have a variety of lavender in here. A lot of the English and of course the Spanish with their little kind of honeycomb tops. This one here is called button lavender. It's more of a medicinal smell. It's not as lavendery. This one up here, which is called platinum blonde, We're gonna take lots of that today. I have this lower lying English lavender and then this English lavender, which doesn't quite look like it's ready to be picked. But I brought out the big cookie sheet so that we would have a place to put it. This lavender it's a little bit late for me to be harvesting it. You know, maybe a couple weeks sooner would have been better. We are gonna take big bundles from below. Lavender is great in baking and for teas and as a seasoning. There are some specific ones that do say for culinary use, and I do have a lavender in the back is for culinary use. Lavender is a favorite with the bees. If you saw my video of the 10 best pollinating plants, lavender was the top one. I'll put a link to that video up in the top. The medicinal aspects of lavender, of course, it is calming and it helps with sleep. Air drying in bundles is the best way to do it. I'm not planning to cook with this one. We're actually gonna dry it and make little lavender sachets with it. I'm laying out a sheet for our lavender because I wasn't interested in bundling it up like most people do. So this is an English lavender. I've got 3 different kinds, so I'm going to kind of designate them in certain spots. This was the lavender that I thought wasn't quite ready, like on the top of the plant. Those ones were new, where the underneath, these ones were ready to be picked. So I think what I'm going to do is just kind of have 3 sections because there's 3 different kinds of lavender. But I think I will put this one this way all across, and then I will put the platinum blonde the opposite direction. As it dries, I'll be able to pull out the things like the bindweed, but you know, just want to kind of get it all spread out. I do have a fan. I wanted to put the sheet down for the racks because this allows for airflow, and it's a controlled environment, because I have seen big companies that when they're doing seeding of lavender, they do this style where they put it out on a big sheet, but the fan blowing on it is going to make a huge difference. Probably what I'll have to do is come in every couple of days and just kind of move things around so that we know that they are getting dried. I do have room on the lower rack, and so I might just go and get another small sheet or pillowcase and put that on the lower rack to put the platinum blonde on. So we have 9 of our herbs here that we're going to go and put into the kitchen. I've got our big pile of thyme and our parsley there. So then I'm going to remove any sort of dead leaves or things that just don't look so healthy, wash them all, dry them all, and then take them out to my air dryer. This is my favorite kind of air dryer because there's lots of slots and it has easy access with these zippers. It just works out fantastic. So I'm going to lay each one of the herbs on one of these trays, and if I have like the ones with the mint, I'm going to put chocolate mint on one side and regular mint on the other, and then I'm just going to put labels so that I'll remember what it is. This is our oregano, and we just kind of toss it all around so that it's going to have its airflow. Whoops. Throw some out, and then we zip it up. And I do come and just kind of fluff it up every couple of days just so that the airflow keeps going. The last ones are my basil. So again, I will put one on one side and one on the other, because there is quite a bit of room. So that is our Tulsi or holy basil, and this is our regular basil on this other side. And then I just write on the green painter's tape and tape it in there. Holy basil on this side, regular basil on this side. So I have 5 of our herbs all in there, and there is a fan over here that is oscillating, which is also helping to dry out the lavender. Let's go back in the kitchen. It's time to make the recipe. So we're in the farmhouse kitchen ready to make the recipe. And what is the recipe?
We are making shatta or zhug, and it's a Middle Eastern dip. And so I found this recipe by Cookie and Kate and slightly adapted it because you've got some allergies, and also for our family, we do like things a little bit spicy and a little bit fun.
Yeah, so the original recipe does call for pumpkin seeds, and so some pumpkin seeds I can't eat.
Yeah, it also calls for walnuts as well. So that's the alternative, but again, you can eat those. So I chose to use raw sunflower seeds instead. so that it gives it the same sort of profile.
All right, so this Shatta, which I didn't know the jug, I didn't know that name of it. We are going to be using parsley and cilantro. So the parsley does come from the garden. And also the garlic also comes from the garden, but the cilantro, because I didn't have enough yet, we went and bought some.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna mix this up in the blender, I say.
Yeah, it is the easiest recipe, to be honest. I've spent some time working this recipe to fit how our family likes things, and then I've tested it on some other people and they really like it as well. So I take about 240 grams of the cilantro and 240 grams of the parsley. We don't need to do much of a rough chop because our blender does quite a great job. So I'm gonna put the parsley in the bottom.
Well, I think with the cilantro, I don't think it's really needed.
No, we might not need to.
It's pretty small sprigs.
Okay.
So I think you can just go ahead and put that in.
And I do add the stems and all. Nothing is wasted in the recipe. Then I add the peppers. And I do 260 grams of peppers.
With seeds?
With seeds.
So I'm just gonna chop off the tops.
And what I've done here, because 260 grams of jalapeno is really stinking hot, what I usually do is find a good jalapeno or two, depending on the size that they are. And then I use an Anaheim pepper. The pepper does help with the texture to make it more of a thicker dip so that you can put it on a chip or a pita.
And so this is kind of a Middle Eastern dish.
It has ties in the Middle East. Unfortunately, nobody really knows who started it. There's lays to claim on many different countries. So I just give it a broad term of Middle Eastern. And they do it in different ways. There are red ones, there are the green ones. Some of them are fermented, and some of them just rely heavily on the peppers.
Okay. And then we're gonna add in a garlic clove.
We're gonna add 6 garlic cloves. It is heavy on the garlic, but you can add more again to your taste.
To what you want. So I'm just gonna kind of do the end here and then we'll peel them up. Because this is not dried, because this is just recently harvested.
So we're needing 6 of those garlic cloves.
We're just gonna put it all in.
Okay. Fine.
Now this garlic does have some heat.
Yeah, so it might end up being a spicier shatta. We like to put ours with lebna, which is that spreadable yogurt cheese
That you make.
that I make. It's also good just on yogurt or sour cream if you're needing something to cool it.
But this is a really refreshing and the health benefits, especially with cilantro and parsley together.
Cilantro in and of itself is a huge heavy metal detoxer. So it's good for aluminum, cadmium, arsenic, mercury, and lead. I know. So it's also good for oxidative stress. So those things that kind of sit in the back of our mind that causes other problems, including Alzheimer's. And then further to that, it does help with blood sugar. It's also good for UTIs and just good for the tummy, and that's cilantro. Then parsley in and of itself has vitamin A, C, and K.
Wow.
Really good for your bones, of course. It's also good for like getting rid of bloating, good for digestion as well. And then it's rich in antioxidants. And those are the things that help to get rid of free radicals in our cells.
Okay.
So all of the external stress, we've got internal and external. And so it works with both of them.
Wow. So this is just, super simple, super easy. Tastes great, but then super medicinal.
Yeah.
For your party tray.
Oh, absolutely. And even though it's cilantro, that soapy taste that some people have, I used to have that problem where cilantro used to taste like either a smelly fridge or like soap to me. And I would have this dip and I couldn't taste the cilantro in it, which encouraged me to eat more. And then I found a study where cilantro, we've always been taught that it's a little genetic coding of either you like it or you don't. And in the study and further studies since, it actually shows that cilantro in and of itself while getting rid of heavy metals. If you put it on your tongue and you get that taste, it's because it's reacting to the heavy metals in your body.
Oh, wow.
So I've had it enough now that I can have cilantro in my salsa. I can eat it regularly. I actually like the smell now, because the smell used to get to me, and now I want it, and I don't get that flavor.
Right. So what spices are we going to be adding in?
Okay, we're going to be adding cumin, and so I do 4 teaspoons of cumin, which you can also add a little bit more if you need to. And cumin is really good for your tummy.
I found, like, my first time with cilantro was, you know, probably good 20 years ago, and I found that it tasted like plastic bags.
Oh yeah, I've had that too. Yep.
So we're going to use
2 teaspoons of salt, and I'm using the Redmond salt because it's high in minerals, and that's something that we need daily. This I do level teaspoons of. I don't do heaping.
Yeah, especially with Redmond's, because Redmond's is like good quality salt and tastes salty.
Then I usually do ground pepper, and I do 40 twists, but we really like this pepper. So what that looks like usually is about a half a tablespoon.
Okay.
So quite a bit of pepper, but again, pepper is super good for you. And I do make sure to do a level
Of this fine ground
of the
pepper.
fine ground pepper, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't need to overdo it. Now I do 2 full tablespoons of red wine vinegar. This adds a little bit of kick. I'm sure you could use apple cider vinegar, but I wouldn't use just white vinegar.
Okay.
Yeah. And we do a half a cup of the sunflower seeds.
Level.
Level, yeah.
So that's just a 1/4 cup.
Perfect. And finally, 1/4 cup of water.
Okay.
So this is what we start with, and then we get to blending. I'm seeing that as I'm mixing it up, it is looking a little on the thick side, so I am just gonna add a little bit more water to thin it out. We don't want too much because both herbs have a high water content to them. Again, like I said before, there are many ways of doing shatta. Some people like it really, really thick. Some people like it on the thinner side. And I like mine a little bit more macerated.
So, a little taste test. Oh, that's hot.
Okay.
Ooh, that's good. Oh, that's good.
Okay. Salty enough?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Plenty salt.
Okay. All right. So we are done. The final stage that we're going to be going through is adding it to our jar and then putting olive oil in. The olive oil is again to taste, to thickness level. You want a good quality olive oil, which does mean that when this is refrigerated, it can get a little bit on the hard side.
Okay.
But you just take it out and honestly it smooths out very quickly.
Okay.
And then I do like putting a little olive oil on top to kind of cap it from oxidization.
Right. Okay. Smells good.
Absolutely. All right.
And you're just measuring with your heart.
Yep.
Okay.
Olive oil is good for us. To a relative degree. Okay. So.
I've never seen her make this. It's just I request it, or you know, we make it to take to a party, and she just makes it. So I've never seen it made. So this is very cool.
So I'm liking that thickness. It will mellow out a little bit because of the olive oil over a little bit of time, but not crazy.
I have a little bit of sourdough bread that I'm going to put it on. See what it's like. I'll have a little bit more than that, please. Oh, it's delicious, Merissa. And I think it probably changes with, depending on the freshness of your ingredients, and you know, this is fresh garlic, and
Yeah.
it's so good. Just excellent.
Okay. So we do want to make sure that when we are growing our herbs that we know what soil that we're growing them into. Cilantro is one that does take minerals and other things from the soil.
Okay.
So if you're trying to get rid of those heavy metals in your body, you also want to be watching how your soil is. So doing it organically is always the best if you can.
Right. And of course I grow our cilantro in pots, so it's not going to leach, you know, and I'm using again our composted soil or farm to garden soil.
Yep, exactly.
That is absolutely delicious.
And now we have Shatta.
Yay, summertime fun. I hope you will take some time to make yourself some very medicinal, healing, heavy metal detoxing dip for your summer parties. Of the different herbs that I pulled today, what are some ones that you've never grown or that you might be thinking of growing? So do put that down in the comments. So anyway, I hope you're having a great day wherever you are, and I want to thank Merissa for teaching me how to make her secret sauce, because I think she was avoiding letting me know about how to make the sauce. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care. God bless.